Hi Terra Mystica fans, and welcome to the third video in my Terra Mystica record score videos. And we're going to look at another game that took place on the Snellman site. It was a 4-player game on the original game board and also involved the mini expansion, which has the 4 extra town tiles, the temple round scoring tile, and the shipping scoring bonus card. On to the game setup, and our record scoring player in this game was playing from seat 2. His name is Sivok, and in seat 1 we have Dr. Hades. Player 3 is Japa Enrique, and player 4 is GR3N. Dr. Hades in seat 1 has already chosen the Darklings, and now it's up to Sivok to choose his faction. The bonus cards that were present in this game have been displayed at the bottom of the screen, and on the left we can see the round scoring tiles. So now's a good time to pause the video and see if you can guess which faction Sivok actually chose in this game to score a record score on the Snellman site for this faction on the original game board, and remember, in a 4-player game. So if you haven't guessed already, I'll give you some clues to help you with your guesswork. Clue number 1 is Sivok finished the first round with a temple, 2 dwellings, and a trading post on the board. And the second clue is, after building his first temple, Sivok actually chose the Earth 2 favor tile. And the third clue is this faction that he chose is a very popular faction. So I think in this game it's not actually too difficult to guess which faction Sivok actually chose. So now it's time to reveal which faction Sivok chose. And the faction is the Engineers. Of course, it's an obvious choice because the Engineers work so well with the Darklings on the original map, as we've all seen so many times. And then player 3, Japa Enrique, chose the Giants, and in seat 4, GR3N chose the Cultists. The Cultists and the Darklings, being the other side of the colour wheel, are not going to compete too much for the Engineers' hexes on the board. And also they're going to give the Engineers plenty of power through the game. But the Giants, with their special dig ability, could be far more of a problem. And the Giants also, being a colour neighbour to the Engineers as red, could also cause the Engineers a few problems. So let's get on to the Engineers game board. And the first thing really to note about the Engineers is they are an economic faction. Building each of their structures is actually cheaper than the average faction in the game. The income from those structures as well is also very interesting. The dwellings actually provide fewer workers than the average faction, in that the 3rd dwelling and the 6th dwelling provide no worker income whatsoever. And so in some cases it can be a disadvantage to pass out of the round with either 3 or 6 dwellings on the board. But very often, especially in the early game, either scoring or board position take precedence over that disadvantage. The trading posts provide 2 coins and plenty of power. That's pretty much an average income for trading posts, but those coins, of course, will go a lot further in building structures. And very interesting with the Engineers, the 2nd temple provides 5 power income, which is why you will often see Engineer players build 2 temples very early in the game. Bear in mind, however, later in the game, if you were to upgrade one of those temples into a sanctuary, of course you're going to lose that 5 power benefit. Because the Engineers actually are such a good economic faction, I often find myself not worrying about converting power into coins so much with the Engineers, because they can get so much benefit from those coins. And another thing, of course, because it takes fewer resources to build these structures, scoring points from them without any favor tiles is actually more effective. For example, the trading post, if it was a trading post scoring round, would score 3 points per trading post built, but only expend 1 point in resources, 1 worker and 2 coins to build that trading post. So they can gain 2 points per trading post built, whereas the other factions actually gain very little. Now let's get on to the Engineer's special ability, which is the ability to build bridges using workers. All other factions are forced to take the bridge power action, which of course can be very competitive at times, but the engineers can take that power action or use 2 workers to build a bridge. Another big advantage of this is they could potentially build 2 or even 3 bridges in one round. And the stronghold ability for the engineers is points scoring from bridges. Once the stronghold has been built, at the end of each round, for each bridge the engineers have, they get 3 points. So as we know, the maximum number of bridges a faction can build is 3, so potentially 9 points at the end of each round for this. But be careful not to rely on this too much. Often beginner players will expend a lot of resources to build the stronghold and as many bridges as possible too early in the game, leaving themselves with no resources to expand their network. And really, network scoring is very, very important in the game. And so I find players generally don't go too strong on this strategy of building bridges and scoring from them. They're more likely to expend their resources building the structures in which to gain the network scoring. At least that scores for yourself and takes away from other factions at the same time, rather than just pure scoring. Another thing really to mention with the engineers is they begin the game with 9 power in Bowl 2, which puts them in a very strong position to take the double dig in the first round. Other factions that have this ability are the halflings and the mermaids. It's even possible to take the double dig on the first turn by taking a 3 power bonus card and therefore getting 12 power into Bowl 2, burning 6 power and taking that. Of course, it may work out better to get more power into Bowl 3 so the engineers would not have to burn so much power, but sometimes in the first turn it is a race for that double dig power action. And a weakness I should really point out with the engineers is their digging ability. Players do not really upgrade the engineer's digging ability because resources are much better spent on building structures or bridges, and therefore they really rely on the power actions, the cult bonus digs, and the bonus card dig. And if those get taken by other players at the wrong time, the engineers can find themselves in a bit of trouble. Looking at the engineers' strategy now with regard to this particular game and the round scoring tiles, in the first round we have trading post scoring, which is fairly easy to score from. Also, the engineers are likely to gain plenty of power from the Darklings on the eastern continent, and also the cultists and the giants are likely to give the engineers plenty of power as well. So therefore, the engineers should be able to take some kind of dig actions in round 2. The biggest challenge I feel for the engineers in scoring a record score would be the round 4 Sanctuary Stronghold scoring tile. Because these two, if you're going to score a record score, you would have to build both of these structures in this round. And of course, they are expensive. In total, the engineers would need 6 workers and 12 coins. And also, it shouldn't put the engineers too far back in their pursuit of the network scoring at the end of the game. So the engineers really should make sure they have enough workers for this, and therefore getting plenty of dwellings down earlier in the game would be useful. There is the Sanctuary Stronghold bonus card available in the game too, and of course the Earth 2 favor tile will boost those workers. Coin income in this game is a little easier than worker income, really because of the round 2 cult bonus. Getting at least a couple of priests into that Earth cult by the end of the second round and boosting your position up that cult will provide lots of coins going into the third round and help that coin economy. Then in round 5 we have again trading post scoring, and in round 6 dwelling scoring, which is fairly straightforward. Getting the Sanctuary Stronghold bonus card in round 4 of course would score 8 points with both of those structures built, and the shipping scoring bonus card can potentially score 9 points, and having that in the final round I think is vital, especially as the engineers at that time will need to upgrade their shipping to take advantage of those grey hexes scattered around the board to get those dwellings down, as the final round is a dwelling scoring round. Now on to the initial placements for this game, and we can see the engineers began on E7 and F6. These two hexes being by far the most common opening positions for the engineers on this particular map. They can get plenty of power from other factions on the central continent, and when the Darklings or the Cultists or any other black or brown faction are present on the eastern continent, they can also get plenty of power there too. Just occasionally, E9 comes under threat, especially from the Witches or the Oran. But in this game, it's fairly safe. One reason for that is in this game, the Giants chose to open on D4 and A6. Of course, D4 blocks the engineers from forming a town across to D4 and C2, but they placed their second dwelling on A6 rather than going for D7. If the Giants had opened on D7, then engineers may have been in far more trouble, with the Giants threatening that E9 hex. The Cultists and the Darklings really offer no threat to the engineers. They're just a problem for each other, and a big net benefit to the engineers in that the engineers are going to get so much power from them in this particular initial placement setup. Many engineers players will try to move across to the left-hand side of the board and later in the game form a town on F1, F2, E3 and G1. But another strategy, of course, is to just form two towns and score boatloads of points from bridges with the engineer's stronghold ability. Another sensitive hex apart from E9 for the engineers, and one that may come under attack in this game, is D6. It's not a vital hex, but if the Giants were to quickly capture D5 and gain shipping, they could easily beat the engineers across to D6. D6 is not vital for the engineers to have, but if they do want to build bridges, then it's a very useful hex, as bridges can be built from D6 to C5 and E9 at the same time, helping form a town. Now it's time to choose bonus cards, and the first player to choose a bonus card, of course, is player 4, GR3N. And I'm sure you can guess which bonus card he chose. Yeah, he chose the Dig bonus card with 2 coins. And then the second player, player 3, chose the Sanctuary Stronghold bonus card, which now leaves Sivok to choose his bonus card. Now, which bonus card do you think he chose? Again, it's not particularly difficult to guess which one he chose. Yep, of course, it was the 3 power and 1 worker. And finally, Dr. Hades, playing the Darklings, chose the 6 coin bonus card. On to round 1 now, and in round 1, Sivok's engineers began by upgrading F6 to a trading post. Then he took the double dig power action, converting F4 to grey and E9 to grey, building a dwelling on F4. Then he upgraded that F4 dwelling to a trading post, before upgrading that trading post to a temple. And rather than taking the Earth 1 favor tile, he took the Earth 2 favor tile, which gives 1 power and 1 worker, already boosting his worker income. Remember, he needs those workers for the round 4 Sanctuary Stronghold scoring round. Finally, he built a dwelling on E9 before passing out of the round, taking Bond 3, the 6 coin bonus card. Then in round 2, Sivok first took the single dig power action, Act 5, converting D7 to grey without building a dwelling on it. Then he sent the priest into the Earth cult before taking the priest power action. Next, he upgraded the trading post on F6 to a temple, taking the Earth 1 favor tile. So that gets him another step up the Earth cult. And he also gets the valuable Earth 1 favor tile, which still hasn't been taken by the Giants. After that, he sent his second priest to the Earth cult, further boosting his position up that cult, getting up to spot 8 on the cult. So that's 8 coins going into the next round. Then he took the bridge power action, bridging from F4 to G3, and also using his engineer's special action to build another bridge from E9 to D6. He must have been fairly confident at this stage that the Giants are not going to get shipping and build on D6 or dig G3 before he manages to build his engineer's dwellings on these 2 hexes. It does appear, though, that the Giants are struggling so far in this game, so they don't seem to be offering a threat. Then Sivok passed out of round 2, taking Bond 10, the shipping scoring bonus card. Round 3 now, and straight away Sivok took the double dig power action, converting G3 and D6 to grey. Because he had bridged over, he didn't need the shipping level upgrade to terraform those two hexes. He built a dwelling on G3, and in the next turn he built a dwelling on D7 before building another dwelling on D6 and then C5. Then Sivok passed out of round 3, taking Bond 6, the Sanctuary Stronghold bonus card, giving the extra 2 workers and points for the Sanctuary Stronghold going into round 4, the Sanctuary Stronghold scoring round. And it should also be noted that as Sivok's engineer's shipping level still remained at 0 at the end of round 3, he didn't score any points from that shipping scorer's bonus card that he held during that round. Now onto the all-important round 4, the Sanctuary Stronghold scoring round. Sivok began the round with 7 workers and 11 coins, and 8 power in bowl 3. Sivok's first move was to take the 7 coin power action, Act 4, to boost his supply of coins for the round. Upgraded the temple on F4 to a sanctuary, taking the water 1 favor tile, which scores 3 points for each trading post built through to the end of the game. A very useful points scoring favor tile. Following that, in turn 3, he upgraded the dwelling on E7 to a trading post. Then he sent a priest to the fire cult, followed by another priest to the fire cult, so he could take advantage of the cult bonus at the end of the round, which incidentally he didn't take advantage of in the previous round, which was also a cult bonus for the fire cult. Then he took the bridge power action, bridging from D6 to C5, and finally upgraded that trading post on E7 to a stronghold, which allowed him to form a town, and the town tile of choice was Town 6, which advances you 2 steps up each cult, gives you 2 points and 2 town keys. Finally, Sivok passed out of the round, taking Bon 1, the digging bonus card. It should also be said that having built his stronghold and 3 bridges, he will score 9 points at the end of the round for his stronghold special ability, and also 8 points when exchanging the bonus card, because both the Sanctuary and the Stronghold had been built during this round. So now on to round 5, and I think on Sivok's mind at this point would be obviously the trading post scoring in this round, but also the network scoring at the end of the game, noting that C3 has been left by the Giants and I6 is still available, allowing access to both the north and the south of the board. And also the cult bonus at the end of this round for progress up the water cult. So a priest into this cult would be useful. So this round, Sivok first took Act 4, the 7 coins power action, and then he sent a priest into the water cult before upgrading his shipping. Then he upgraded the dwelling on D7 to a trading post, founding a town and taking Town 7, which is the town tile which gives 4 points and upgrades your shipping level. So now his shipping level is up to 2. Then he used his bonus card dig action to terraform C3 and build a dwelling there. Then he took Act 3. Act 3 is the 2 worker power action. Then he built a dwelling on H6 before upgrading that to a trading post and then to a temple. And the favor tile he chose for that temple is Air 1. Another very useful scoring favor tile. Then he built trading posts on G3, E9 and C3 before passing out of the round, taking Bond 10, the shipping scoring bonus card, the all-important bonus card going into the final round, able to score 9 points. So going into the final round, Sivok, playing engineers, used his cult spade on I6, converting that to grey. He began the round with 5 workers and 8 coins. And notably, only 2 dwellings down on the board, so he had 6 more dwellings to place before having to build a trading post, this being a dwelling scoring round. So first, Sivok took Act 3, the 2 worker power action. Then he went on a dwelling spree, building dwellings on C2, then I6, G1, F1, I9 before upgrading his shipping and building another dwelling on A2. Then he upgraded the trading post on D7 to a temple, taking favor tile number 6, which is the water 2 favor tile. He then took his cult step again up the water cult using that favor tile before building a trading post on I9 and then passing out of the round to finish the game. So the final scores, Sivok with his engineers scored an incredible 202 points. Second, Cultist GR3N scored 145. Dr. Hades with the Darklings scored 131, and then the Giants 104. The engineers got all 18 points for the network. They scored a very respectable 21 points in the cults. 27 points were scored from bridges using the engineers' Stronghold ability. And throughout the game, the engineers scored a total of 17 points from the scoring bonus cards. 8 came from the Sanctuary Stronghold bonus card in round 4, and 9 from the shipping scoring bonus card in the final round. So in conclusion, an outstanding game there from the engineers. The network turned out to be not particularly competitive, nor the cults. The engineers managed to get 16 structures on the board, easily taking the network scoring, because the Giants only got 10 structures, and neither the Darklings nor the Cultists managed to join up their networks. So this is the end of this video, and I would certainly recommend going over to the Snellman site and researching a few more of Sivok's games, because Sivok is one of the very best players of Terra Mystica there are. So guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.